Welcome back, Focus Learners. In today's explainer, we're stepping far away from the bright lights and diving into something incredibly mysterious, hauntingly real, and historically absolutely fascinating. We are walking right through the iron gates of St. Louis Cemetery No. 1. Founded all the way back in 1789, it's the oldest, most famous, and unarguably the most haunted cemetery in the entire United States.
Now, when you think of New Orleans, you probably immediately picture Mardi Gras, right? The beignets, the jazz, the endless neon-lit party of the French Quarter. But just a few blocks away from all that vibrant energy sits a place that is the exact opposite. St. Louis Cemetery No. 1 is completely quiet, slowly decaying under the gray skies, and it essentially operates as a heavily guarded city of the dead. And honestly, that brings up a massive question.
Okay, let's get right into this. Because the oldest and most famous cemetery in America is actually no longer open to the general public. You literally cannot just walk in here alone anymore. The iron gates are firmly locked, and you absolutely must have a registered tour guide to enter, which kind of makes you wonder, what exactly are they trying to keep out? Or, perhaps a little more chillingly, what are they trying to keep in?
Section 1. The City of the Dead, built for the swamp.
To answer our question, we first need to look at the completely bizarre geography of early New Orleans, because it birthed some of the most unique and structured burial practices you'll ever see. If you're used to regular American graveyards, you probably expect green grass and deep digging. Well, not here. Early settlers realized really quickly that they had built a city practically in a swamp, sitting right at or even below sea level. This led to a massive, gruesome problem. When heavy rains hit, the water table would rise, and those traditional wooden coffins, they would literally pop right out of the mud and float down the flooded streets. So clearly, burying the dead underground was a complete disaster.
So, to solve this horrifying floating coffin problem, the city started building upwards. They created these elaborate, above-ground brick tombs that look almost like miniature houses. But here is the wild part. During the brutal summer heat of the Deep South, the inside of these brick tombs can reach over 200 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about 93 degrees Celsius. These tombs effectively become natural, solar-powered literal ovens.
Here's how it works. First, a coffin is placed inside the brick tomb. Then, by both law and custom, they wait exactly a year and a day. During this time, that brutal 200-degree heat naturally reduces the remains and completely disintegrates the wooden coffin. Finally, cemetery workers simply open the tomb, sweep up, and push the remaining bones to the very back. This makes room for the next family member to be placed inside.
Because of this grimly efficient natural crematorium system, one single tomb can hold the remains of dozens of people in a remarkably tiny footprint. I mean, it's an incredible feat of early urban planning for sure, but just think about the chilling reality of that for a second. With so many souls packed into one incredibly tight space, it completely makes sense why investigators and locals alike claim the paranormal activity here is absolutely off the charts.
Section 2. The Voodoo Queen, Marie Laveau.
Out of the thousands of people resting in these oven tombs, there is one resident who reigns supreme. Marie Laveau was the legendary Voodoo Queen of New Orleans, and during the 1800s, she was arguably the most powerful and feared woman in the entire city. Everyone, literally from high-ranking politicians and judges to common folks on the street, sought out her magic. They went to her for advice, for healing, and definitely for curses. And according to local legend, that immense power absolutely did not stop when she died in 1881.
For decades, desperate visitors performed a very specific ritual at her resting place. It was known as the 3X ritual. The belief was that if you went to the Glapion family crypt where she rests, you had to knock 3 times, draw 3 X's on the plaster, shout your wish out loud, and leave an offering, like a coin or a bottle of rum. Then, if the Voodoo Queen actually granted your wish, you were required to return and draw a circle around your X's.
But listen, you definitely did not want to get on her bad side. Locals swear that disrespecting her resting place comes with terrifying paranormal consequences. People have reported seeing an apparition of a woman wearing a red and white turban walking through the tombs, only to just vanish into thin air. Others who got a little too close or were disrespectful have claimed to suffer physical scratches, sudden pushes, and this overwhelming, crushing sense of dread.
And hey, here is the answer to that open loop we started with. Why exactly is the cemetery locked today? Well, it wasn't to keep ghosts in. It was the uncontrollable vandalism of Marie's tomb. Thousands of people scratching X's into that fragile historic plaster got so completely out of hand that the Archdiocese of New Orleans had no choice. They had to step in and lock the iron gates to all unguided tourists, permanently, just to protect her crypt and the rest of the cemetery.
Section 3. The Lost Sailor, Henry Vings.
Marie Laveau is far from the only spirit wandering these narrow, misty alleys. Let's look at the truly heartbreaking story of another famous resident, Henry Vignes. Henry was a 19th century sailor. Before heading out to sea, he made the fatal mistake of trusting his local boarding house owner with his life savings and his family's burial papers. While he was away, this landlady maliciously sold his family tomb and pocketed all the cash. When Henry finally returned to New Orleans, he found himself completely destitute and utterly betrayed. Tragically, shortly after, he caught a sudden illness and died.
Because his papers were stolen and he had absolutely no money, Henry was denied a proper burial in a family tomb. Instead, he was just tossed into the paupers section. This is an area of completely unmarked graves located at the very back of the cemetery, designated for the destitutes, and the lore suggests that he is still fiercely protesting this ultimate betrayal today.
Tourists and guides frequently report encountering a tall apparition with striking blue eyes, dressed head to toe in 19th century sailor clothes. He doesn't attack anyone. He just stops people wandering the paths and softly asks them one incredibly chilling question. "Do you know where my tomb is?" Before vanishing right into the shadows.
To ground this ghost lore just a bit, paranormal investigators use something called EVP, or electronic voice phenomenon, to detect audio anomalies. In that exact back corner of the graveyard where the pauper graves sit, investigators have actually captured EVP recordings of a man sobbing uncontrollably. It's a really tragic echo of a man who just wants to find his rightful resting place.
Section 4. The Bizarre Modern Mystery, Nicolas Cage.
As we step away from the 19th century spirits, we hit something completely jarring. Right in the middle of these decaying, crumbling, 200-year-old tombs, you will suddenly stumble upon a bizarre modern anomaly. It's a massive, stark white, pristine, 9-foot-tall stone pyramid. Now, this is not some ancient relic of a forgotten society. It was built in 2010, and it belongs to none other than Hollywood actor Nicolas Cage. Cage somehow managed to buy a plot in this highly exclusive, entirely sold-out cemetery, and he erected a giant pyramid for his future resting place.
Carved into the stone of the pyramid is a mysterious Latin inscription, Omnia ab uno, which translates to everything from one. But the absolute biggest mystery here is why? Cage has never ever given the public a straight answer for why he built a giant pyramid in an 18th century graveyard, basically leaving everyone to just guess.
And let me tell you, the local rumors attempting to explain this are wild. One major theory points to voodoo protection. See, Cage used to own the infamous LaLaurie Mansion, which is widely known as the most haunted house in New Orleans. And some believe he built the pyramid to ward off voodoo curses attached to that property. The other prevailing theory? Pure secret society symbolism. Whatever his actual reason is, it stands out like a massive sore thumb among those historic brick ovens.
But what's truly fascinating is the modern ritual that has evolved around it. Female fans frequently visit the tomb just to kiss the white stone with bright red lipstick. It creates this incredible visual contrast, right? You have the bright, modern obsession of red lipstick marks directly contrasting with the ancient, desperate scratched X marks on Marie Laveau's tomb just a few pathways over. It's a surreal mashup of eras.
Section 5. Secrets of the Dead. Which brings us to the core takeaway of this explainer. St. Louis Cemetery No. 1 is a guarded city caught between two completely different worlds. It's surrounded by the concrete noise of modern highways, yet it is fiercely protecting ancient spirits and centuries-old mysteries inside its walls. It's a place meant to be observed, but absolutely not touched. So, I'll leave you with this final thought. Knowing the brutal history of the 200-degree oven tombs, the terrifying curses of the Voodoo Queen, and the endless wandering of a betrayed sailor, would you ever dare to take a guided tour of St. Louis Cemetery No. 1? And more importantly, if you did, would you ever go looking for your own tomb? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, respect the history, and I will see you in the next explainer.